Good morning, everybody. It's Michelle Alcorn here with my mom, Helen, here in New Brunswick, and we're really excited for the topic that we're talking about today on Atlantic Canada Cooks. And it is gluten-free, but it's full of flavor. I think there's a perception out there sometimes that gluten-free means there's not a lot of flavor.
Not true.
So we've been on a very long journey in learning about gluten-free foods for a while, haven't we, Mom?
Yes.
So it started with me a few years ago, quite a few years ago, when we realized that I had an allergy or an intolerance to gluten. And we have some of our family members that are celiac. So we hope that you get inspired today to not be afraid when your gluten-free friends and family are visiting, that you too can make delicious foods. And so our menu today, we're making a bit of a composed meal for later. So we're gonna have lasagna, which is one of my absolute favorite things to have. And we've got some great gluten-free noodles that are a rice noodle that we're gonna be using with our lasagna. We're gonna make a chocolate cake. Right?
Yum, yum.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. And there's actually no flour in this particular chocolate cake, so it's called a flourless chocolate cake. We're going to make an amazing salad that we're going to add some extra spices and seasoning and some Parmesan crisps that are going to go in with those. And in addition to that, we're going to be making a garlic flatbread or a pan bread. So I'm not much of a baker, as we joke and often say, but we're gonna make a pan bread. So garlic bread and lasagna with a beautiful salad is an amazing Italian meal, but it's also meals that you'll see eaten around the world. This week on Conversation Club, we were talking about which countries have lasagna and which don't. So it was very interesting to hear the different types of food around the world. So we see our Zoom audience, want to say hi to everybody on there. We love having you Zoom in, and especially to our YouTube audience. We really appreciate the help. Share, subscribe, and, enjoy. Exactly, Mom. Exactly. I'm wearing my Maritimer shirt today. So East Coast lifestyle, thank you so much. And that's New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia. We're known as Maritimers. Also has to do with our proximity to the ocean. But let's get cooking. So we're gonna start with our cake because we wanna get the cake into the oven. We probably need to preheat the oven though.
Yeah.
So do you wanna get that oven bake? We'll get it in there. Sometimes it's hard to see.
I know.
375, there we go. So we're gonna preheat our oven to 375 so that oven is at the temperature that we want it at. When you're baking, it's really important that you warm up your dishes, you warm up your oven so that you have everything at the right temperatures. So we're gonna make our cake in this small round pan, and this is a very rich and delicious chocolate cake. So you don't need a big piece. So let's get going. So I'm gonna mix all of our ingredients in a bowl here, but I am gonna get my mom to give me a little bit of help to crack the 3 eggs. If you want to get a smaller bowl, Mom. And we're going to crack those 3 eggs. And we're just going to beat the eggs a bit so that we can get the yolk and the white combined well together. And when you're baking, it's really important that you do that. So the ingredients for this wonderful, wonderful chocolate cake, we're going to put some chocolate chips in it. These are a dark chocolate chip. We're going to be using some butter. We're going to use some salt, some vanilla, 3 eggs, and some dark cocoa powder. So that's really, we got 2 types of chocolate going into this. So I'm going to give you the 3 eggs. Here's a fork. And we'll get cracking. Mom's going to get cracking, and she's going to get those eggs whipped up. In the meantime, in the bowl here, I've got a nice baking bowl. I'm going to get our other ingredients together. And we've got a 1/2 cup of butter here. Thank you, Mom. Mom softened the butter too, so we want to make sure that we're using a butter that's not really hard because you won't be able to blend your cake together very well. So as you see, this butter is really soft. So we're gonna get this in. Half a cup. We will be publishing this recipe so that you can go have a look. And obviously you can come back to YouTube and hang out with me anytime. And I'll be in your kitchen with you as you make this dessert. So we have a half a cup of butter. We're gonna put 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I'm using a brown coconut sugar in this particular recipe, just because I prefer that to a bleached white sugar. And we've got our eggs in there. I'm still getting those mixed up. So the other thing is it's because in baking, you often use salt.
There.
So Michelle's using her measuring hand instead of measuring cup. And when you've cooked as much as I have, you often understand what your measurement is. So we're gonna put 1/4 teaspoon of salt that's gonna go into this cake as well. Thank you, Mom. We've got our eggs, so we're gonna add those. Mom has them perfectly mixed up together. So we're gonna mix those in. So, and now we're gonna need, thank you, Mom. I'm gonna get my cocoa, and I've got a really nice dark chocolate coconut powder. And I really like a dark chocolate. So that's 70% or higher in the cocoa category. And this is, so we're gonna need a half a cup of cocoa powder. Remember, this is a flourless chocolate cake, so I'm actually not gonna use any flour at all in this cake. So really, the ingredients come from all these other beautiful natural ingredients. So it says a half a cup of cocoa powder. This is 1/4 cup. Mom, if you want to start stirring that, you can. I'm gonna get Mom to stir that for me. So 2/4 equals a half. There we go. Chocolatey, right?
Very chocolate.
So because the last ingredient that we're going to be using in this is we're actually going to put some chocolate chips. You can use whatever type of, you can take a chocolate bar, cut the chocolate bar up. That's awesome to do that as well. I love it when a recipe sheet starts looking like that. So the last ingredient we're going to put in here is a cup of chocolate. You can, like as I said, cut up a chocolate, anything. You can buy baking chocolate, whatever it is. These are kind of squares. They're little chocolate squares versus, so I'm just gonna make sure as I drop them, it should do a taste test.
Yeah.
You know, when there's chunks of chocolate, get out of the way. That looks good.
Yeah.
There we go. So, as you can see, this recipe is chocolate with some chocolate and a little bit more chocolate. Right? So we're going to take inventory. We've got a cup of chocolate chips. We have a half a cup of softened butter. We have 3/4 cup. As I said, we used a coconut sugar. I'm out of maple sugar, or I would have maybe used maple sugar in this. We've got 3/4. There, we're only missing one ingredient. We've got our eggs, our cocoa powder, and our very last,
vanilla.
an important ingredient. And this is a vanilla that I brought back from the Dominican Republic. And it's a beautiful vanilla. And smell.
Oh, yeah.
It smells amazing. I'm going to use a little cover because I only need a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And this is pure vanilla, not vanilla extract. So just remember when you are baking to keep those two different ingredients.
No, half a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon. So a little more vanilla is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it smells good.
Mom reread my recipe and it actually says a half a teaspoon and I put 1/4.
No,
So,
it says 1
1.
teaspoon.
There we go. So we're going to put a little bit more vanilla. There we go.
There we go. Oh, it smells
It
delicious.
smells amazing.
You can almost drink it.
And I have to say, we're going to hold the bowl up. It looks like it's just chocolate chunks. So we do want to make sure that we grease our pan.
Yeah, sure that-
I'm just going to stir that.
Yeah.
And I've got a cooking spray I'm going to use. Cooking sprays come in very handy. I've seen them all over the world when I'm traveling. So we're just gonna move a few ingredients out of here that we will bring back in a minute so we can see. Look at this wonderful basil plant.
Oh, my favorite herb.
Favorite herb. So I am just gonna make sure. So this is a round baking pan. It's about 4 centimeters in depth. And I think that's gonna fill most of it. So I'm gonna take my cooking spray just over here to the side. There we go. So we wanna make sure we have a good amount of the cooking spray on that because we don't want the cake to stick. So let's get this poured in here. I'm gonna move my lasagna noodles. We'll come back to those. All right, Mom. So how's that look?
Yeah, good. Just
Good?
gonna give you a spoon. It's easier.
I'm gonna, if you can give me a spatula,
Yeah.
it would be even easier. There we go. Or a spatula spoon. So we want to get all the mix out. So I'm gonna use a little bit of a rubber spoon here so that we don't leave any of this behind. I will tell you though, I feel like this is one of the recipes where I want to lick the spoon.
I will. I'll lick it.
How
I don't normally eat raw anything,
But it's chocolate.
oh, that's
right?
really good.
And I think most kids are with their parents and we're the ones licking your spoon.
Yes.
So there you go. So we're going to pour this into the baking pan as you see. And because this cake is so sweet, you really don't need to make a big one. And everybody will get a delicious piece of this cake. There we go. Get all the chocolate out of the bowl. It's sticky. I think everybody can. I'm having a hard time getting the chocolate out of the bowl. How's it taste, Mom?
Delicious.
Yeah. And you're not even tasting the melted chocolate. I'm going to hand Mom the bowl.
Okay. I can lick the bowl.
One of the best things. So we're just going to push this around into the pan. You can see the giant chocolate chunks in it. And obviously what's going to happen with this, which is so amazing, is that chocolate is going to melt
Yeah.
all through this cake and really create more spoons to lick. I want to get the rest off this, so we're going to use our best kitchen tool,
Your
finger. You always have that tool with you. So there we go. I don't want to miss any of it. And
Now, another little
trick,
trick is you just bang it down so it'll spread out.
so it'll spread out.
Yeah.
I'm
here,
really
take that.
there. You go. I'm really not able to get the end of this off.
That's okay.
I think I'm going to be licking my finger. We're just gonna. There you go. Right, Mom?
Yeah, just
We're just gonna pat that pan
flattens it out.
so it flattens it out. Michelle's gonna lick her finger because she can. Oh, that does. That tastes amazing. So this is what it looks like just before it goes in, and we're gonna put this into our oven that is preheated, and we're gonna set a timer for 15 minutes, and then we're gonna check it after 15 minutes. So we'll be looking for that to come in. Get my kitchen towel here and wipe off my fingers. I see some of my amazing friends, Donna and Doug in Newfoundland, have joined us online as well. Donna is one of my favorite people, and she's an amazing cook. And we were very privileged to have them visiting over the holidays here, and we had a lot of fun cooking in our kitchen together. So it's always great to see everybody here. So the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna talk a little bit about gluten-free options, but we're gonna get the lasagna ready. At the food stores here in Canada, there is a lot of options for, this is a lemon cake mix. Again, another favorite cake of ours. And it's already has all the ingredients in it. You just need to add some eggs and some liquid to this one, and you'd have a beautiful lemon cake. So if you're not one to want to substitute and use a lot of different flours, there are a lot of beautiful things that are already done in boxes. Many times we use pancakes here that are already done and mixed up. So I just want to say this is, I think this is from Gluten-Free. Michelle can't pronounce the name of it, but here's the brand name. I buy a lot of their products, and all of them turn out absolutely fantastic. So it's not complicated to get gluten-free. And trust me, they are full of flavor. So we're going to set this one behind. So the lasagna is a really traditional, yes, it's an Italian dish, but I think it's a dish that traditionally is made a lot across North America. Many restaurants that you go to here, you're going to have an amazing lasagna. And I really do encourage you to play with your flavors, because that's one of the nice things about this dish is you can make any adaptations that you want to your flavors, to your meat, and add different pieces. But Mom, my mother makes amazing pasta sauce. So earlier this week, we enjoyed some wonderful pasta sauce. Mom, look how thick that is.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
amazing. Do you want to maybe come up and share a bit of what you put in your sauce to begin with? And right now that sauce is really thick. Look how thick that is. So we need to thin that out just a little bit,
Yeah, just put a little
because
water in it.
we're not going to cook our noodles in advance. These are a no-bake noodle, or no-bake. You don't need to boil the noodle. We do need to bake the noodles. So, but it requires extra moisture.
Yes.
So when you're using a noodle like these, oh, look at this guy, he's cracked. You need to make
Dropping
sure you
glob.
have a good. You need to make sure you have a good amount of sauce in there. So, Mom, tell us a little bit about what you put in here, because it's very delicious.
Well, I cheat when I make it. I use canned spaghetti sauce, and that one was Classico, a bottle of Classico spaghetti sauce. It was delicious. And then I used a can of Hunt's spaghetti sauce, the big ones, the big cans. And then I used, then I put salt, pepper, garlic powder, some thyme, and
Look at the color difference.
oh yeah. And then I used, what was that other thing I put in?
You've got some ground beef in there,
Oh, ground beef, yeah, right.
and some onions.
Oh yeah, I did fried a bunch of onions up.
Yeah.
And I forget what the other thing was I put in. Oh, good anyway.
Some oregano and some seasoning.
Oh, I did some chili powder.
Exactly.
I was very generous with the chili powder.
Mom,
Gives a little tang.
so here's something funny. She's trying to tell me what she put in it. She said the spicy spice. I said, okay, Mom, spicy spice. So she went to her cupboard, and the spicy spice,
Was chili powder.
Helen's secret ingredient, is chili powder.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is this is a beautiful tomato sauce that I bought yesterday, and it's just a pure tomato sauce. So we need a little bit more liquid because your awesome pasta sauce
It was quite thick, yeah.
But when we put it in, this was almost pink,
Yes.
right? And it smells amazing.
Oh, it smells delicious.
So I've just mixed this sauce in with hers
To thin it out a little
to
bit.
thin it out, and it's going to bake in the oven. So I'm just using a straight tomato sauce that does not have any extra seasoning in it, because Mom put all the great seasoning into her original sauce. So I'm just going to add
And
a
with
little bit more.
no bake noodles, you have to have that extra liquid for them to soak up and blow up.
Yeah, and we keep both saying no bake. We're going to bake them.
Well,
It's no boil. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? Have it. So when you're building the lasagna, and I'm going to get that cooking spray out again. I'm just going to put a little layer across the bottom of our pan. It does help.
Put some of that in the bottom of
Yeah,
the pan.
You can put that away.
Okay.
So in this big bowl here, we have all that beautiful, so I've made it a little bit thinner, and we've got that beautiful layer of sauce. So lasagna is great because it's just building layers of love. That's what I say.
Yeah.
So let's move this out of the way. Michelle's going to take a sip of coffee here in the middle. So lasagna is about meat, pasta, and cheese. But I like to add a little bit extra healthier ingredients to mine. So let's build this together. So what we're gonna do is on the bottom of the pan,
Some of that in?
we're gonna start with,
Oh.
no, because we've got that beautiful ricotta.
Oh, right.
So we're gonna put a layer of sauce just across the bottom. And I think, you know what, Mom, I'm gonna put a little bit more of that other sauce in this one. I would rather have too much sauce than not enough. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the whole jar
Yeah,
in.
you could put a little bit in
There we go.
Okay.
And I'm just blending it because I don't want just the plain sauce. We want to have that nice flavor that Mom had put with the seasoning. So garlic, oregano, basil, salt, pepper, spicy spice,
Chili powder.
whatever you would like, you want. Now, some people make this really spicy. I like to keep mine more spicy flavor and not have all the heat. So we're going to get that nice layer on the bottom. You have nice chunks of meat in there too, Mom.
I know.
What we did cook up, a little extra ground beef, because I want to put a layer of beef. And as we do this, you're going to see this build. Does that look good?
Yeah.
I think that looks good. So the next thing that we're going to do, is give it a shake.
Give it a shake.
Give it a
Spread
shake.
it out.
So we're going to layer our noodles in.
Yeah.
So we're just going to put those across. I have to move that piece of meat. And we just want to make sure, isn't that funny? I got a big chunk of meat in my way. They fit across the pan.
And one will go in the end.
So if you see here, there's our layer, and we're going to put one noodle across this end. Look at that. We have to break it just a bit. So try to be careful when you're breaking your noodles. Oh, just like a centimeter more. So we can put that across. Perfect.
Yeah, you can throw these in.
So
Look, there's a hole there.
there's a hole there. We've got a missing spot. We're going to put a missing piece of noodle in there. So remember, your sauce is what's going to help everything cook. So we are now going to put some more sauce across this, and we're going to layer that. And, you know, it's sort of as you like, but you want to make sure the layer covers all of the noodles, because that will be the moisture that's going to cook this in the oven. So, see, I'm glad I added that, Mom.
Yeah.
So, my next ingredient I'm going to add before I put another layer of noodles is I'm going to add some spinach. And I love adding spinach to my lasagna because it adds a wonderful healthy component, and it adds some nice flavor. And even those people that don't love spinach, it sort of really blends in, and it gives you sort of just an extra vegetable that's in there. I've also seen a lot of people they can layer zucchini. I have made my lasagna with a lot of different layers in it. Yeah, I've got all of that covered. So I've got some beautiful fresh spinach here. Get a handful. I am going to just take the little ends off my spinach, set those off. So we've got a really big handful of spinach. And thankfully these are nice, flat, very fresh spinach. And I'll say thank you to our friends at the Rabia store here in Moncton, where you can go and get some really beautiful fresh ingredients all the time to be able to put in. So let's just get this nice layer of green. So we're going to end up looking like the, I think the Italian flag. And we often joke about that there's a lot of things in Italy when you're building them that end up looking, because they have the red of the sauce, the green of this beautiful spinach, and then we're going to top it off with some white mozzarella cheese, which you want the nice stretchy mozzarella cheese. So there, I'll show you that layer. Try to get all my spinach laid out straight here. There we have it. So we have a layer of spinach. That spinach is also going to cook down, and it's also going to add a bit of moisture into the dish.
Yeah.
So I love that about spinach.
A little extra nutrition.
And that's exactly, Mom, I think that's my favorite part, because
Yeah.
we know that we're adding some nutrition in there. So now what I'm going to do, on the top of this layer, I have some beautiful ricotta cheese. I love using this cheese. It's a creamy cheese, you'll see. You could use ricotta. You could use mascarpone if you want. That's a little sweeter. But oftentimes, it's often made with cottage cheese, which is a little bit more of a curdled cheese. And I've grown up with this as one of my favorite dishes since I was a little girl. And part of it, Mom, you always made good lasagna. But my Aunt Greta, my dad's older sister, and then sometimes in the summer I would go and stay with her, and she always made me the best lasagna. So I'd like to say thank you to my Aunt Greta, who I think got me addicted to lasagna very early age. And I continue to make it and love it. So this layer of cheese, you're just gonna spread it across evenly. It doesn't need to be thick. You can put a lot in it if you would like, but we're just gonna, and we're topping this with more cheese. So I will say this is definitely not a dairy-free dessert. It's not a dessert, a dairy-free meal, because it's gonna have a good amount of dairy going through it. Here we have it. So we'll give you that, Mom, if you don't mind. An extra piece out of the way, and there. So the ricotta cheese layer is through. But I want to add just a little bit more cheese with this particular layer. And I've got a bowl of a grated mozzarella. So I am just adding a little bit of mozzarella through it. Mom, I think there's Parmesan cheese somewhere close, right there. Yeah. So I'm putting a little bit of mozzarella in the middle. And we're going to add just a little bit of Parmesan cheese as well. And what I love about this cheese is it adds a bit of a salty, briny flavor. And it's just enough when you're eating it, you're like, ooh, there's an extra delicious flavor in there. And that's going to be that beautiful Parmesan. It already looks delicious to eat as is. But we need some more noodles.
One more layer.
So let's add our next layer. And you always want to watch when you're doing this, because you want at least 2 layers of noodles. Sometimes if you have a deeper pan, you could have 3 layers of noodles definitely. If you wanted to. So there we go. And again, Michelle has to break a noodle in order. And if you've ever tried to break spaghetti, it doesn't always break exactly where you want it to. I think we did pretty good with that. There we are. So there's the layers on. Woo, that's getting heavy. Look at that. How beautiful is that? I'm very excited.
Can't wait for supper.
Right? So now we need this to cook really well. So we're gonna add a really good layer of that pasta sauce across the top of it again. And I just want to remind everybody, it's the moisture from the sauce. And Mom, you've got that ground beef over there too.
Oh yeah.
It's the moisture from the sauce against the noodles that's really going to act as the part that cooks it. This is going to be a very full lasagna. So, not yet. There. And hopefully you can see this. We're just making sure we've got the sauce over all the noodles so that we get that moisture where it needs to be. I'm very happy that I added that whole jar because we're going to be needing it.
Yeah.
So Mom has some additional ground beef. We just want to add a little extra layer of meat. Remember, the lasagna is like your whole meal in one part. So what I'm going to do is just sprinkle. I need a sprinkling meat. The layer is across. I'm just holding my hand in front so I don't get it all over my counter. Look at that. I'm hungry just making this recipe. There. And the other thing that's really nice is when you cut this, we need to check the cake. That's a halfway point we did.
Okay.
All right?
Good.
Good. Thanks, Mom. So we've got that beautiful layer of meat. Oh, that looks delicious. So the other thing that I like to do is I've got some beautiful fresh basil here. And I have it on my plant. I want to be careful as I'm picking my basil because I want it to keep growing. But what Michelle's going to do is I'm going to add a little layer of fresh basil that's going to go across the top of the meat and the cheese. Or the meat and the... I'm dropping my basil now. These are huge leaves. I'll hold those up. They smell absolutely delicious. It's one of, as Mom said, her favorite herb. And it's probably in my top few favorite herbs. It's very fragrant, and it's very traditional in Italian cooking especially. I've also had the opportunity to make this particular recipe when I was in Italy with an Italian cook, and it was wonderful to learn a little bit more. And they said the other ingredient in this recipe is love. So there's a lot of love that goes in. So there's our layer of basil. Wow, this is so heavy. How's the cake looking, Mom?
I put it on for another
Good.
minute.
I'm just gonna move this. Pardon me. So the last ingredient that goes on the top of your lasagna, which is sometimes everybody's favorite, is a good mozzarella cheese. And the mozzarella is really the right cheese to use because mozzarella has a stretch in it.
You have to have the stretch.
Right? And it really kind of combines and really makes this particular recipe extra delicious. And you want to make sure that your cheese is covering all of your basil, because what will happen is the basil will burn in the oven if we don't completely cover it with cheese. So really nice layer. There we go. Giving Mom all my extra bowls here today. And I'm just, again, going to take that nice grated Parmesan and I'm going to fill in the edges. Wow. This looks absolutely amazing. I am not going to bake this right now. I'm actually going to bake it later this afternoon. So when it comes out of the oven for us to enjoy for dinner, that it's fresh. So that looks absolutely perfect. I'm just going to pat everything down, making sure my basil is covered in cheese. That's a full pan. Michelle's getting her exercise today. Have a look at this. So we are very much going to be enjoying having that amazing lasagna. Hopefully you can see those layers. You see the ricotta cheese, the spinach. And when this cooks through, I will put a cookie sheet or a baking sheet underneath it so that, because some of the sauce might bubble over the edges. So we're going to set this here. Wow. That's a heavy one. So that will bake for about 45 minutes at 375. I do put a piece of foil on top of it. And then about 10 minutes before it's ready, I'll take the foil off so that the cheese can get a little bit brown. But the foil on the top helps keep the heat in so it cooks all the way through. So we're going to move a little bit of our extra spinach out of the way. And I'm keeping my Parmesan close because we're going to be using that Parmesan cheese here to finish off the salad that we're going to have with our meal. But whenever we're making something, pasta of any type, spaghetti, anything that we're having, it's very common here in Canada that we would definitely have some bread or some garlic bread with it. And that's just really a fan favorite here. So this particular bread that I'm going to show you today is a pan bread. Any bread is excellent with it, and you can turn it into garlic bread. And we're talking gluten-free, so I think a lot of us get confused. Is it going to taste good? I'll give a shout out to this particular company, Bob's Red Mill. So if you're here in Canada, it's an amazing product, and they've really perfected gluten-free. And you'll see this is a baking flour, and it's a 1-to-1, which basically means you use this the same way you would use regular flour. So in this particular pan bread, and Mom, we're gonna get a pan warmed up. This one here, just on low.
On low.
Yeah. So ingredients in this one. So we're gonna use about a cup of flour. So I'm gonna get my measuring cup in there. So which is about 235 milliliters of flour. I'm very lucky. My measuring cups have both the conversions on them. So we're gonna put a cup of flour in here. So I'm gonna use a cup and a quarter. So, and I love what they did. It's like a little Velcro seal on this bag, so it's very easy. I'm gonna put this over here. So with the flour, we're gonna put in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So this is just a brand baking powder. As we often say here, remember to use your baking powder and not baking soda. And we're gonna need 2 teaspoons. So 1 and 2 teaspoons. And then the other thing, and I think this is very normal that you would be doing when you're making any bread, is we're gonna use a little bit of salt in it. So for this particular recipe, it's calling for 1 teaspoon of salt. Michelle's using her measuring hand again. So we have about a teaspoon of salt. I'm using a nice sea salt in mine. It's just a preference. And what I'm gonna do right now is with those dry ingredients that are in my bowl, just wanna make sure I mix them through. I mix them through when they're dry, because the only other ingredient we're gonna be adding to this is we're gonna add some Greek yogurt. What we don't wanna do with this particular recipe is if you don't mix your dry ingredients, your baking powder is probably not gonna get well distributed. So just make sure that you give it a good stir so you get the salt, the flour, and the baking powder really well mixed. All right, so, and our last ingredient, we've got some nice plain Greek yogurt, and this is what is gonna be going into this particular recipe. I'm gonna use my measuring cup, and what I'm gonna be using is about 300 milliliters of Greek yogurt, and in this is 235. So I know that I'll use basically a cup and a half. I'll get this in. Greek yogurt is fairly thick. You'll see that, thicker than I think some of our regular yogurts. So there's the 235 milliliters, and now we need just enough more. Let's see, we need another. Sticking to my cup. There we go. That's gonna give me the balance to take me up to 300. All right. So now what we wanna do is we need to blend this mixture together. And it's interesting how it comes together because the yogurt and the flour, and it is gonna form a dough. And it's interesting because I think usually with a regular bread, you would use water, right, Mom?
Or milk.
Or milk.
Yeah.
So this is gonna come together, showing you here.
I think they use warm milk. Or warm water.
A warm water, right, Mom?
Warm water to activate the yeast.
The yeast in that, right?
Yeah.
So where we're using this in a flatbread, that doesn't have any of the yeast in it.
No.
Because we're gonna be pan frying these.
Right.
And I will tell you, I can feel right now, I need a little bit more moisture. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more yogurt so that that gets blended through. And we're gonna turn these into garlic flatbreads. And we're gonna make one now, we'll make the rest later because these flatbreads, yeah, that dough's forming, very nice. Come together, and they're really best as soon as they come out of the frying pan. You can make them in advance, but I want them hot because I'm gonna show you a really easy technique to make your garlic bread even more garlicky. So there we go, that dough. Hopefully you can see as it's come together, and I'm just mixing the rest in the bottom, and that's gonna form. So we'll be able to, I'm gonna get my hands dirty here in a second. Mom, do you have that pan warming up?
Yeah.
Excellent.
The cake's done.
Well, we hope the other thing we inspire you to do is get in the kitchen with your friends and your family and explore some new recipes because they're always fun. So we're gonna get my hands a little dirty on this one, and I'm just gonna roll the dough a little bit, and you make a decision on sort of what size you want your flatbreads to be. So I'm gonna use about this size. If there's golfers out there, it's about the size of a golf ball. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pat it out. The other thing I like about this recipe is they don't have to be perfect in their size, right? The breads, we're gonna pat them out and we're gonna put them into the pan with a little bit of olive oil. So we'll get Mom to get some olive oil. Michelle should have put some flour on her hands before she did this because they are sticking to my hands a bit. So we're gonna make a mini flatbread, but later we'll make these ones all a little bit bigger. Mom's just getting the oil in the pan.
Yeah.
And the dough sticking to my hands. So one extra step. Make sure you put some flour on your hands before you do this.
Cake's done.
Is it done?
Yep, I tested it.
Wow.
Yeah. Smells good.
I thought I smelled something extra delicious here, and Mom was just saying that the cake's done. So we're gonna show you that. I'm gonna put a little bit of flour on my hand. Here we go. To finish patting out my flatbread. Or pan bread, as we would call it. So I'm gonna give this to Mom. We think that pan's hot? Hopefully. There we go. And I'm just gonna show you. So once I put it into the pan, it's got a nice little sizzle, I'm just gonna flatten it out a little bit more. And Mom's gonna allow that to get crispy and fluffy. So Mom, if you can hand me that kitchen towel, it's right here.
Yeah.
We're gonna wipe that off. So once the garlic bread comes off the pan, which we're gonna get it, it's not garlicky yet, right Mom?
No.
So what I am doing here is I've taken a whole clove of garlic. To make this right, try to get a big clove of garlic out. And what I'm gonna do with this is I made sure I cut the end of it off. So we've got the nice raw garlic here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna rub this all over the bread. So we're gonna take the raw garlic and we're gonna rub it onto the crispy cooked bread. So you can use this technique with any type of baker that you're doing. So even if you have plain toast or bread and you wanna put it into the toaster, you would use this same technique to add that really, really delicious garlic flavor. Many times you could make a garlic butter. So you would mix some butter and maybe some dried or granulated garlic in with that. Some extra seasoning. I've got some beautiful fresh thyme here. That is my favorite herb that we're gonna be using on our garlic bread just to give it a little bit of extra flavor. So while Mom has that cooking, we have one last recipe that's gonna make our meal complete. And this is why we're having lasagna, we're having it with our garlic bread, and one of the things that's very traditional is a really beautiful salad.
Yeah.
So, and salads are easy. So I know being someone that eats gluten-free, if I'm going over to a friend's house for dinner, there always says, Michelle, what can you eat? So to everybody out there in the world, if you have gluten-free or you're just choosing to eat healthier, it is the new year, so lots of us want to get healthier, better nutrition, because, for when it comes to fitness, it starts in the kitchen. And any meat and vegetables, so will never contain gluten. So just remember, if you stick to salads, meats, and vegetables, you'll never be concerned about the gluten-free aspect of it. And then it's the same thing when you're making your salad dressing. Then you just need to make sure you're either reading your labels or make your salad dressing from scratch. So those are sort of a couple of the tips. So when I'm making a salad, that's going to be having with this particular meal, I'm not looking at adding a lot of things to my salad. I like to keep it simple. And when you use different types of lettuce, it will change your salad. So if you see in here, I've got some spinach. We've got some, I'm losing the word, beet greens. I'm seeing the color. We've got some purple lettuce. So each of these different types of lettuce actually tastes just a little bit different. But I love arugula. And it's a wonderful, and it's funny because people say it's an herb or a lettuce, because technically it's a lettuce. So I love it with this one. These are nice and done organically here, all clean. So when arugula grows, it grows up like this, and it's a beautiful lettuce. But sometimes you can use arugula as an herb in other recipes. It has a peppery bite to it. So Mom likes it, but she doesn't like a lot of it.
That's right.
I'll eat a whole bowl of it, so that's not a problem for me. So we often talk about having a little pair of trusty kitchen scissors. Oh, the pan bread's looking great, Mom.
I know. Just get a little plate for it.
And we're gonna keep that pan on because I'm gonna do the Parmesan cheese crisps.
All right.
So we've got our arugula here, and all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut it into ribbons to add into the salad. And I promise you, if you put a little arugula, or sometimes they'll call it rocket, into your salads, they will add a certain level of flavor that is absolutely amazing. So I'm cutting this up into smaller pieces, unlike the larger leaves that are in there, because I really want this peppery lettuce arugula to go through. And definitely you can use all the way down into the stalks, but we're going to use just the leafy part. I'm going to save this to use in a soup later. So we're going to mix that through. Wow, that looks awesome, Mom. Perfect. So we've got all of these different types of lettuce. The only thing I'm going to add into this salad is a couple of green onions as well. I love adding green onions in my salads. And I just am going to cut them very thin. Just use the edge of your knife. Watch your fingers when you're cutting. And we just want them to be in thin slices because, again, nobody wants to buy a really giant raw onion, because I find that sometimes it can actually overpower the food that you have. And we've got some rich flavors in our lasagna. So cut that down. There we go. I'm putting 2 green onions in this particular salad, and I'll add a little bit more later. And you make the salad to whatever size you want for the amount of people that you're feeding. So there we go. I'm gonna layer that beautiful onion through there. And what I'm gonna be using here, and I just wanna make sure, I am simply gonna be using some balsamic vinegar and making a bit of a mix. But there's one other ingredient that we're going to top this off at. So it's a last little gluten-free snack. So we've got our grated Parmesan cheese. So we've got our salad sitting here, and I'm going to create some little cheese crisps that we're going to put on top of this particular salad. I think that's got a nice temperature. There we go. We're going to try to do 2. How's that, Mom?
Yeah, a little thing.
There we go. So we want to watch that.
Yeah.
There. So I'm actually going to borrow the pan for 1 second. So Mom has a hot non-stick pan. I really need to be specific to make sure you do use a non-stick pan with this. But you want your Parmesan cheese finely grated.
I gotta flip them.
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
So in here, and hopefully you can see this, how quickly these are cooking down, and you see a little bit of browning on the edge. That's exactly what we want. I'm gonna give these back to Mom, So she's just gonna patiently wait and don't walk away from this recipe. And she's gonna flip those over. They'll be a little bit golden brown on both sides. And I would actually suggest that you use tongs or a knife, Mom, to flip them over because they're gonna be stretchy. Right in there. There we go. So, and they only take a few seconds on either side. And I'll tell you something, your friends, look at that. Perfect. Flipped over perfectly. Smell-o-vision would be great. See the nice golden brown? And they're not gonna take long. We're just gonna leave that there to keep an eye on those, Mom. And they'll only take another extra couple of seconds. And we can get a little pan to put those on, or pan.
Give me my tongs back.
There you go. Taking my mother's cooking tools away from her. So we're winding down this amazing recipe or dish. So we're waiting for the Parmesan cheese crisps. We're gonna put those on top of our salad, but we do have our pan bread out. So these are absolutely perfect. Mom, awesome job. So there's a little flatbread, and you can use these to make a sandwich. Put your eggs, whatever you want. But what I'm gonna do, and this pan bread is still a little warm, is I'm gonna take that garlic and I'm rubbing the raw garlic on my bread. This will change your garlic bread in your life. Hopefully you can think about this in the future and do this with your garlic bread and your friends will love you for it. Smell that, Mom.
Oh, nice.
You really don't see it, but I can promise you the flavor in this is very, very rich. That could be eaten as is. I'm just gonna put a few little herbs across the top of this, and I'm just gonna take a little bit of olive oil. Mom, if you could pass me the olive oil, that'd be great. Fresh basil would be good on this. You can do anything that you want. So we're just gonna add a little tiny bit of olive oil across the top. And there we have a garlic pan bread with a bit of oil and fresh thyme. Dried oregano would be really wonderful on it, or
A piece of basil. Definitely.
nice fresh basil across the top of that. So the Parmesan cheese crisps, absolutely perfect. Look at this. And they are crunchy and delicious, just like a chip. So what we'll be able to do with these is we can top it beautifully just on the top of the salad. We'll show you that. Oh, look, there's a piece falling off. The benefit of being the cook. And there you have. So instead of croutons or anything, put the Parmesan cheese crisps. Put them in your salads. Put them on everything. I make them as a snack sometimes. But I would want to make sure that these are the last that go into your salad. Put your dressing on underneath so that you don't get the moisture into your Parmesan cheese crisps. Then the other thing that can be done with these, and I want to show you, is they crack apart really quite easily so that you can take these apart and make a big one into many little pieces, right? Mom, do you want to taste test? Because I know you do.
Of course.
There we go. They're absolutely delicious and crunchy. Right? One of the easiest things you're going to do, and your friends will think that you did something extra special. Well, we hope
Cake's done.
we're going to get the cake. Grab that. I'm going to grab the lasagna, Mom, and you can get the cake. Let's bring our beautiful meal over here to show everybody. Oh my goodness, those Parmesan cheese crisps are delicious. And we just want to say thank you so much for coming in, getting inspired for some great cooking. That looks amazing. Oh, is it still hot?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not too bad.
Okay.
Wow. There you go. A flourless chocolate cake, which is going to be amazing for us to have as a dessert. And do you know what I'm going to top that with?
Ice cream?
Ice cream would be a good one. Probably just a bit of whipped cream.
Oh yeah. That's
because the cake itself is going to be very, very delicious. We need to let it cool in the pan a little bit longer before we remove it from the
Yes.
pan so it doesn't fall out. But hopefully you can see it's very uneven on the top, as it should be, because it's got some of those nice chunks of chocolate
exactly.
that are in there. So there we have it, Mom. Our garlic bread, our Parmesan cheese crisps, an amazing salad, and of course our lasagna. This is going to be a delicious gluten-free meal.
I love it all.
Right?
Yeah.
So we'll say from our kitchens to yours. Thank you so much for enjoying and joining us here on Atlantic Canada Cooks. And hopefully we'll see you experimenting with some of these great recipes in your kitchen.
And today's my great-granddaughter's 7th birthday.
There we go.
Happy
so
birthday.
Happy birthday,
Birthday,
Marley. And happy birthday, Denise. We had a friend that we celebrated, and Lugene turned 5. So this was a big birthday week. My sister had a big birthday.
Yes.
So happy birthday to all of our January babies. And we had an extra birthday week of celebrations this week.
That's this week.
And a few more to come. So thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Take care, and we'll see you soon.